Hey boys, it's a impromptu video from Code and I to go over some off-season moves. We felt like we've been into the off-season for a pretty good amount of time. Unicorn made fun of me because I haven't been as involved recently. I did take, I feel like, a month off, but slowly but surely getting that itch back to do the fantasy football things. And Code reached out and said, "Let's do a video." And I said, I can't remember exactly what I said. I think I said something like "Yes, Daddy." Is that correct? We wanted to get in here and do a video, and we were talking about kind of what to do. Really, you kind of mentioned like a top free agent list, and I was like, well, we got roster move time and this and that,
Yeah.
and so here we are to kind of really combine them both. So you've come up with a top 10 projected free agents, and by projected, kind of talk me through that. You did a little bit of people that already are free agents, I think, right? Was there any thought into people who you don't expect to be re-signed, or was it really just this person's a free agent now or will be because they have to be, like a Saquon? How did you come up with your list?
Well, before we do that, we definitely enjoyed our off season.
Right, we
just as you can see, but yeah, we're getting back into it.
Yeah.
It's dynasty is forever.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at the free agents, looking at rookies, looking at all this stuff. But yeah, this top 10 projected list. Really, a lot of the names on here are they're already current free agents.
Mm-hmm.
Because I looked through each of the teams, looked at needs and just my opinions on players and evaluations and whatnot. And it's like, it's hard to project like Unicorn letting Lamar just go for nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like a guy like Lamar's not on this list. I think there's a couple guys like I think like Allen has like CD Lamb who's like at least gonna get like franchise tag or RFA.
Something's gonna happen there, right? Like
yeah. So like with all that like into consideration, the top 10 list right now, number one obviously is everyone's darling, Saquon Barkley. It's still shocking that he's even a free agent, but that franchise tag and getting disgruntled, and now he's the number one blue chip prospect on that free agent market, and somebody's going to pick him up. It's maybe it's not Rick, but I am hard pressed to think it won't be with how much cap space he has compared to everyone else's. But yeah, Saquon's number one. And then number two, we have Sam Darnold. And I know it's going to be kind of like, weird, but we're thinking like fantasy lens, right? And, do we really think the Vikings are going to just are they just going to give the cues to J.J. McCarthy right out the gate? Like, I think that there was talk about Darnold either getting like re-signed there or maybe in franchise tagged. And if he does stay in Minnesota, like, doesn't he just slot into doing what he just did this year, which wasn't he like a QB1 in fantasy this year?
Yeah, I mean,
like
he was up there. That's the reason why he's a free agent, right? Didn't he hold out? And that's kind of why.
Yeah, he held out, and Flynn didn't want to pay up. Which honestly, I think the holdout price for QB was like $71. I feel like you could get Darnold for like
cheaper
50s or less. Yeah, right. So
depending on where
that's just my evaluation. Everyone's different. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I
can't
he's.
remember when franchise tags are due. Keep going. I'm going to look up when NFL franchise tags are due.
So he's clearly, Kirk Cousins. We don't know what's going to happen with that. But even if Kirk Cousins was on this list, who's going to sign him to a 3-year deal? You know what I mean? Like I don't really know if he's even going to be on a team after getting benched for Penix.
Right.
But Darnold at least showed out. If you discount out the playoffs, he obviously looked horrible then. But the regular season wise, he looked like a good starting quarterback, and maybe that's O'Connell's system more than anything else. Maybe it's that he's throwing to Jefferson, but for fantasy, we don't care. We just want the points, right? So,
right.
Darnold's number two.
And March 4th, by the way, is when players have to be franchise tagged by an NFL team. So. We'll have more information March 4th. Our RFA process starts March 13th. So there's going to be a good window where we, in theory, should know where Darnold is before bidding for him starts, too. I think that obviously is an important factor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we're going to, because the vet auction will run from, the March, 15th to, April 30th or something like that. So it's like
Yeah.
we're gonna have like a player a day, and it's gonna be like in the midst of NFL free agency. So like on day 6, the 6th nomination might be just not that big of a deal, and then the 7th nomination is like, oh shit, everyone wants this guy now because of his new landing spot.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that kind of segues into the next one. Number 3 on this list, gonna shock some people, but I think it's Justin Fields, quarterback. And not saying Fields is a good quarterback, but for fantasy, I mean, Allen had him as a starter for like the first 2 years of this league,
Yep.
and he put up good numbers because of his rushing upside. And like, I don't think the Steelers are going to keep him. Sounds like the Steelers want Rodgers. So I mean, but maybe they do. And if the Steelers end up keeping if the Steelers end up keeping Fields and Rodgers as a starter, then he's definitely not the 3rd best free agent. But like, this is going under the assumption that he, hits the market and then signs with the team and starts.
Yeah, get the
I think number 3 for him, just considering the rushing upside that he has at quarterback. I mean, we love that for fantasy. So he would be the 3rd best free agent on this list. Also, don't think that Allen is going to re-sign him. He's currently, I guess, the rights are with Allen right now, but he's on this list because I don't think Allen's going to re-sign him either.
Yeah, Allen's got too many big name players to re-sign other than Justin Fields. That list being Mark Andrews, DJ Moore, George Pickens, Khalil Shakir, CeeDee Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 5 priorities in front of Fields, that's for sure.
Yeah. So number 4, we got Cooper Kupp. And I think the thing with Kupp is that it's like mostly the allure of like where he's going to land, because I saw rumors linking him to like Washington, and I'm like, you got Kupp, Ertz, and like Scary Terry there. I mean, he could easily be like a wide receiver 2, if he balls out with JD5. But I mean, I know there are people that think that Kupp's washed, and people that think he's not. I mean, he seemed pretty motivated in his like social media posts about, the Rams don't want me anymore, but I'm still here to play. I'm still here to compete, So I mean, we're talking about a guy that literally won the Triple Crown. I know he's older now, but I think you can kind of say like the next couple of guys are probably like interchangeable, however you want to like rank them in this like list. But since Kupp's essentially going to get traded or cut and end up somewhere else, the allure of the unknown is why he's ranked higher here. So. Next,
it's interesting. So he came out and said, I'm as healthy as I can be. I feel great. I felt great all year. Like, isn't that a bad thing? Like if he came out and was like, yeah, my fucking knee all year has been sucking. He came out and was just like, nah, I feel great. It's like, you haven't looked great. Like I just thought that was interesting. Because like that's the last line is like, I'm healthier than ever. I'm just like, you should have said my knee hurt, and that's why I didn't do good, or something.
Yeah, that's why I didn't give you enough fantasy points. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think about it like yes, but then I think like for the next season that would be a good thing. Like it's like a bad thing because it's like but like I think about like a guy like Amari Cooper that got traded mid-season, didn't do a whole lot for me. At all. For my fantasy team, but he like literally like injured his wrist and needed like surgery, but didn't want to get it during the season.
Right.
And I mean, the way the Bills play, it was kind of like he wasn't going to get like just force-fed targets, but he's probably going to hit the market now and probably end up with another team. And I don't think he's necessarily washed just yet. But like, I mean, there's so many different factors that go into this stuff. It's like fucking Adam Thielen like balled out at the end of the year, after being dead. So it's like we don't know this stuff. We're just all just posturing, which leads to the next one. Keenan Allen, number 5. I think he's going to be a free agent, or maybe he's still with the Bears one more year. I don't exactly know, but I know there's talk about him like finding a different team. I mean, if he stays in Chicago with Ben Johnson, I mean, that might be very nice for PPR. I mean, he's like 32, going to be 33, but he's still producing. And I just can't see Nate re-signing Keenan Allen, which is why he's on this list right now. Nate has his rights, but the YYWR is like 68 or something, and it's just like
it's more than that,
for a 32-year-old guy. Yeah, for a 32-year-old guy, I mean, sure, he'll probably produce in a PPR league, but it doesn't seem like Nate is in a window where he can attempt to contend. So it's kind of like, why bother with paying?
Uh-oh.
receiver. He's number 5 on this
Uh,
list.
I cut out for a second there, but I'm right back into it. Yeah, I mean, $82 for Keenan Allen. I think the only way that Nate retains the rights is like a sign and trade situation, where someone moves in and was like, "I'll pay Keenan Allen $82," but I don't know that anybody wants to pay Keenan Allen $82. So
Yeah, well, I mean, and some of the teams that are like, staunch contenders or have been contending for a while now, it's like cap strapped already. You know what I mean? So
right.
it's not exactly. It's not like, I mean, I think like if I took on $82, I'd literally be bankrupt. So there you shouldn't like some of the people are like, maybe, but to a guy like Rick could be like, yeah, I'll take him. That $82 is nothing to me.
Right.
So,
I wonder if that's even worth it. But that's a whole other conversation. So
yeah. Number 6, we got 4 more guys, including this one. Najee Harris, running back, hitting the free agent market. I mean, I think that the thing with Najee was that his contract was just ass, and like I applaud Flynn for getting out of it because it was like 187 this year, and he was like, "Fuck it, I'll just take the discounted refund." But I mean, Najee's probably going to get on a team, probably going to have like I don't know if I can say confidently he'll reach like another 1,000 yards, but you think like projecting for like 7 to 8 touchdowns is crazy if he goes in as a starter somewhere?
yeah, I mean, I think he'll be fine. Like
Yeah.
yeah, I think he'll be fine no matter where. I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's this bell cow that you can put in your RB1 spot and let him sit there forever. But I think that he's definitely worthy of being on this list and absolutely has the ability to win you some games if he does the right things and things go well. I mean, he was number 20. He was an RB2 last year, and he's in.
I mean, he's been good in a split backfield. I mean, I think the problem with Najee is that everyone had like he still kind of has those crazy expectations from that year one when Big Ben's just like dumping him off, like tech downs every day, and that's where he got his PPR value. But like he's not a bad running back. I mean, he's still physical, still athletic. He's only like 26, so he's not like the age gap for RB or whatever. He's not hit that yet, so. Yeah, he could have some value in the market, but obviously landing spot will be a big deal for that.
Yep.
Number 7, we've got Jawan Jennings, wide receiver, 49ers. He was actually a holdout, and then Unicorn, kicked him to the curb. But I think he'll still get paid decently this year. Because, I mean, right now he's like wide receiver 2 for the Niners. Because like they're going to trade Debo or cut Debo. It doesn't seem like Debo's going to be there this coming year. So Jennings immediately slots into that, and I mean it's kind of like the Chiefs and how every the wide receivers on the Chiefs, you just want to have a piece, or anybody on the Eagles, you want to have a piece. It's like the Niners are that kind of team. So Jennings nets in like a $20 to $30 payday free agency. That's not insane to me.
No, not at all.
And then 8, 9, and 10 we have the tight end spree. Number 8, we got Dallas Goedert, tight end for the Eagles. He's the tight end is a crapshoot, as we all know, but for a points per game basis this year, he actually performed pretty well. He was just injured all the time. I mean, if he gets another good opportunity within this new scheme or whatever, I mean, as much as I love Saquon, I don't think he's going to go for 2K again. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, I find it hard to see that. So those yards and targets got to go somewhere else, So Goddard's there. Number 9, we have Hunter Henry. Henry actually put in a pretty solid year at tight end. He had some like good weeks and then like some like 2-point weeks, and it was kind of like hard to know when you're going to start him. But it's like if you're just looking for a play at tight end, you could do worse than Hunter Henry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, the only concern with the Patriots is like maybe they draft Tyler Warren. That'd really mess him up. But I mean, Hunter Henry and Goddard are the best tight ends out there right now, because the next one is Travis Kelce. And the only reason why Kelsey's number 10 is because, one, if someone does sign him, you're signing him to like a 1-year deal. And 2, he may retire like this offseason. So we don't know yet. There's so much uncertainty with him. If he does play into the year, he's probably a fine start in fantasy. But that's the top 10 list that I got. No Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts sucks.
Yeah, I was about to say the just to run you guys through the confirmed free agents we have right now that are the snubbed off the list. Kirk Cousins,
Yeah,
Kyle Pitts, Hollywood Brown are the three that pop out to me. But I do like the list. I think it
the
makes
big
sense.
snubs. Yeah,
Yeah. And there's plenty of other players who have the upside or this or that. But those are like the three that jump out to me is not how do they not make the list, right? But they're the
yeah.
other ones I think you could argue to
Well,
say should be on there as number 9 or something like that. So
and there's quite a few running backs too that are like on in the free agent market that are just like they're just dudes. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not gonna like shell out crazy amounts of cap for some of these backups, but like
yeah.
having them on the roster wouldn't be it'd be nice to have some of them on the roster, but at the same time it's like what's the difference between like Tyler Algier and Trey Sermon? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's really not a lot of difference there. And with this rookie draft coming up, so many running
All
backs.
those running backs. Yeah. It's going to
Right.
be.
It's kind of hard to project the running backs. That's why
Yeah.
Saquon and Najee are like the only two. I'd love to see if Chubb stays in Cleveland, but dude, I
Yeah,
don't know what they're
that's
gonna
the
do
one on
with
the
that.
list
I mean,
because he's a free agent.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So many
So
questions.
that's the top 10.
Yeah, there's our top 10. So we'll switch gears slightly. I actually prepared for this one a little bit so we can actually see a little bit of kind of what's going on a bit more than just Code and I's beautiful faces. But I went through all of the teams, and let me do this actually. Let me do this, do that. Let me do this. Let me do this. There we go. So I went through all of our teams and kind of did a should list as what the goals for each of these teams should be in the roster moves period. We're still in the cut discount period, and so I tried to I made sure that none of them were moves that already happened because as I designed this list, some things did come up that I think happened or had answers to those questions. So there's sometimes it's usually 2 things per team. Sometimes there's 3, and so we'll start with the Liquidators. Why? Because that's the order they were in on Sleeper. I think if you're Chase in this roster move and cut discount period, you've got to cut Christian McCaffrey and you've got to extend Rashee Rice. I think Christian McCaffrey being at $254 cap hit is way too much, and you have limited money with all your cap picks, with all your picks coming up $111 plus all those picks that he has. You can't just let Joe Burrow walk.
Yeah.
CMC, cutting CMC at this point in time would be a massive cap hit, but would save a lot of money. And so that was the first instinct. And I think Rashee Rice is on a really cheap 1-year deal. I don't think these guys are really worth too many roster moves. And so Chase is 2 in the bank. And I feel like if you're going to use one of them, that you should extend Rashee Rice a bit. But maybe we'll see Chase hold on to both these to roll it over to next year and get an extra one. But you also wonder if you're going to extend Rashee Rice or you're going to extend a Purdy, maybe you use them this year instead of next year. The Chase does have some big decisions coming up, but those were the 2 I saw for Chase that really stood out to me. As we go on to the inaugurals, we take a look at this roster, which is barren but stars and studs. Only $90 left in the cap room, and that leads to a heartbreaking call from I know Cam's end and your end and all those other truthers out there. I think you should cut Justin Jefferson. Cut him or trade him. I feel like you can, if Cam offers to take some of the money, but clear out like $200 in cap space that could work. Cam was asking if there's a way to kind of finagle around some of this money, and the only way to do it didn't work the way that he thought it would. So that doesn't really work. So I think you can move off Justin Jefferson, but I think you also got to get a top quarterback. You've got Kyler Murray, you've got Trevor Lawrence. Both those are fine, but I think that Cam is clearly trying to stay in and push the cap to next year. And I really feel like having an alpha QB1 would be the way to do it, and maybe use Jefferson as that tool to get that piece. But I know that Cam has a very loving and caring affection for Justin Jefferson, so I don't think
It's hard to not. Yeah. I mean,
very
they
difficult not
predict.
to. So I wonder if he'll do it. But I just think his wide receiver room's already so strong that maybe he can get away with it. Morgan, the Webster Tigers, continuing to stay in the Real Men of Genius division, which is going to be an adjustment to get used to calling it that. Morgan's got 3 roster moves left, which means that if he doesn't use any more that one would roll over and two would go in the trash. So he should, right? He should use one more because it doesn't hurt him to do it. And there's a couple names here that I think that Morgan likes. I know he likes his Packers receivers, and you got Romeo Doubs here. I don't think so. I don't think you do Wicks. I think you should extend Puka Nacua. He costs $7 to extend another year onto.
Yeah.
I would just supermax this guy's deal and just be done with it because you know it's going to happen, especially with how cheap it is. I would just go after it because it's only a matter of time until he holds out too, right? And so part of me thinks that you extend it, you get it going. And again, you don't have to use one of these moves, but you really should because otherwise it's wasted down the drain. They move over at a 2-for-1 rate. So if you have two, you roll one in the next year. So having three does nothing for you. You've got to use one. Yeah. That is such a clear, obvious answer to me. You just put Puka out 5 years and be done with it.
Well, and real quick on Puka before you go to the next topic. People like the guys on like the 1 year expiring deals, but there's also value to knowing you've locked him up for like the next 4 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if Cup's gone, what are they going to, they might draft a receiver, but are they going to just walk in and be better than Puka? It's like, I don't think so.
Yeah, no, because Puka got there when Cup was fine and said, get out of my way. I don't think that he will. The other thing really for him is to tier up. I think he's got a really good quarterback room with Jaden Daniels and Baker, and then you've got JJ McCarthy still there in the wings, which is nice. I think that you probably need to go after and tier up a bit at running back or quarterback because it's a bunch of running backs that are, Charbonnet, Corum, Garendo, Trey Benson. There's a bunch of
A lot of bottoms.
Brian Robinson and Audric Estime are the two starters currently. Your wide receivers are good, right? You've got Puka as your absolute alpha. There's a couple other names. Addison's on here somewhere. QJ's on here. But there's, other than Puka, there's no star name here. And so part of me feels like go get them. He's got 102, so that can help. But I really feel like Morgan should go after an elite player if he can. Would be my thought. Rounding out the Real Men of Genius division, that's the wrong button. Rounding out the Real Men of Genius division, let's take a look at the C words. I think you've got to retain Cook in some way, shape, or form. So he's a holdout. He's asking for $34, $36, $34 right here. I think you've got to hold on to James Cook. I think Rick has the money for it. I think he's still on the Bills. How long you keep him for if he's asking for all this money, that's the fun question, I guess. But I think you've definitely got to hold on to James Cook. But I also think you should probably look at or really consider trading Mike Evans. I'm a Mike Evans truther and believer, but he's pretty expensive. And I think that by the time that Rick comes online, that this contract will be too much to hang on to at 173. I think this is a good sell to a team that's got cap room now and trying to win, like a inaugurals, like a Brownout, like a Ticket to Ride. If Allen pushes the chips in again, like a Justin's Deli, and get some value out of Mike. I don't think you sell low, like trading him for a second's stupid to me. But hold on to him and look mid-season or look after things shake up, or if Godwin goes away and they just stick with McMillan and they draft a guy in the third and that's the room, I really feel like you could get some good value for Mike Evans, especially with the way his contract is. If Rick offers to eat some cap and he's got all the money in the world in comparison to the rest of us, so that's what I think could do it. That rounds out the Real Men of Genius division. Any thoughts or comments overarching there before we move on to the next one?
No, let's go to the next.
Okay, cool. That was quick transition right back into it. Let's take a look at the next division. We are going to head over. I keep clicking the wrong button. We're going to head to Brownout. Let's talk about the microaggressors. For Brownout, really, cut Mahomes. Just, no bias, I swear. Cut Mahomes. You're paying him way too much money. Yeah, it's just crazy to have a QB more than $300. I think, in this kind of league, and it's like, this is coming from the guy that has Jalen Hurts, and I probably shouldn't have actually restructured his deal, but I was like, you know what, I don't want to pay a QB more than $300, so I restructured to $250 each year, and I'm just going to ride it out with Hurts. I genuinely thought about cutting him in the final year, but after they won the Super Bowl, I cannot do that to my boy. So he's with the team forever. I just think that you know, I don't want to say luck, right? Because nothing's luck. This is, you know, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's skill either, right? It's a combination of both. You've got Bucky Irving, who's incredible on this cheap ass deal. Jared Goff, here we go. You ready? We ready?
Yeah.
Best quarterback contract in the league. I said it. Okay. Jared Goff, best quarterback contract in the league. Up there with Jordan Love. I'd really have to look at them both side by side to see. You know, Amon-Ra St. Brown on a cheap deal here. He hit on Bo Nix. McMillan's looked good. Dude, you're good. Like, you shouldn't have taken on JT. I don't think at that cost, even though you got the 140 or whatever. But I think you cut Mahomes. I think you get a shit ton of money back if you do, and you kind of and you're already in a good spot cap wise. You could go into the veteran auction and get anybody you want and compete with Rick by cutting Mahomes. But I think that if you do that, a clear objective has got to be to tier up at tight end. I know that Miggs is one of the biggest believers in Hawkinson, but I feel like you're paying him $63 and he hasn't done very much. You know, you've got Njoku on the roster. He's a big believer in him. I feel like, and I'm not saying you got to go out and get Brock Bowers because he's going to be insanely expensive, but I feel like if you don't see much from either of these two guys early, you've got to go out and get an elite tight end because that's the only place that we're really lacking or brown out. And so that's kind of the thought process there. Moving to Am I Spooky? I really think, I'll come back to this trade constantly. I can't believe I traded after last year a fourth and I traded Deontay Johnson away for a fourth and I won the trade. $82 the next 3 years. I feel like you bite the bullet and just cut him now. That's the first thing I would do is to really consider cutting Deontay Johnson. And I think you find a QB2. He's got a high picks. I think it's 103.
He has 103.
Yeah, so he's got 103, and I think you've got to find your quarterback, or I think he's got 104. I don't know.
No, Project has the 103. So yeah, he probably has a good shot at one of the QBs.
I disagree. I think he has 104. This is such childish of me. But I remember seeing this and being like, I think he needs to get up to 103. If I'm Project, I would do a lot of film study-ish and find which quarterback I like more. No, he's got 103. Fuck. Cut that. Cut all that. Cut the last segment. I think at 103, you got to pick your guy who you think might be the quarterback. The Minshew experiment's not a thing. That's kind of clear. I think he's going to hold on to Tua. So I think if you can
sign Tua,
I think if you can get the quarterback that you like more, that you're more excited about, that you'd prefer, I feel like that's a good level ground to stand on. I think, especially with how many contracts he has that are expiring here with Waddle, Higgins, Connor. He's got a lot of cap room next year, $800 almost. I feel like if you can hit on a quarterback and you can go into that with Tua and somebody else, and you've got Odunze, which is good. People are optimistic about Mitchell. You can probably RFA and Waddle. I feel like you've got a good ground to stand on and a good core, but I feel like you've got to get a quarterback. So if you're a Shadur guy or a Cam Ward guy, I think he's got to make that pick at 103 unless he wheels and deals and moves back or something like that to try to pick up some more assets. Was a little weird doing myself, and so I tried to look at this from a really top-down perspective in terms of what a team should do and not take my team into account. I said, you've got to figure out what you want to do here with your re-signs. There's 4 moves left, and you've got, all 6. I know my numbers, I swear. All 6 of these guys have reasonable arguments for why you should hold on to them. Russell Wilson, who knows, but he's a quarterback. Geno Smith, who knows, but he's a quarterback. Aaron Jones played well. Dobbins is cheap and played well. Mims and Gray both are actually opposite stories for these two. Gray looked consistent throughout the year, then stopped looking good at the end. Mims looked meh and then started looking amazing at the end. So I really think you've got to figure out what your decisions are here and move forward with them. And I think one of those decisions is keep Noah Gray, or at least really monitor the situation with Kelsey. The reports are coming. Yeah, the reports are coming out that they want to keep Kelsey, but they want to kind of put him in a different role, like mentoring the young guys. And that makes me think that I don't know that Noah Gray is the next Kelsey, but for $2, that's a bet I think that a team should take. And then moving on to the last team in the microaggressors division, Ticket to Ride. Here we go. I think you need to make a similar call to the one that you did last year with Kittle. And I would trade Joe Mixon early after franchise tagging him and having him be disgruntled. I think that Mixon is great. I like him. I think he had a great year with the Texans. But I think that that's going to be the peak. And I think you kind of learned last year not to let go of Kittle too quickly or not to do it all willy-nilly. And so I think using that mindset with Mixon his contract, knowing he's disgruntled, maybe you can find something a bit more appropriate, and maybe moving on from Mixon is a good call. And I think you should use Mixon to get an elite wide receiver. You've got two great quarterbacks with Allen and Hurts, arguably both top 5 dynasty assets. You've got really good receivers as well. But if you can go ahead, what's his face? You've got A.J. Brown, and then you've got a good rotation of like kind of 2-3 guys, right? Luke McCaffrey, we'll see how it goes. Thielen's not going to be here forever. Coker looked good. Zay Flowers looked good. Keon Coleman looked good. Amari Cooper. If you could take that group and turn them into your flex players instead by getting an elite wide receiver, I feel like that would give the ticket to ride, which is you, significantly more peace of mind. That's kind of the thought process there.
I appreciate the advice.
yeah. Just trade with me. I have elite wide receivers. I have Marvin Mims. Let's go to Allen here, and this is where it's ironic that this is on my list as it happened today. I said you've got to hold on to Bijan, right? Like that's kind of an obvious. He's $57.
Absolutely.
Figure something out here. Don't max him on a 5-year deal because he's a running back, but you got to do something there. The other thing you got to do, which is exactly what he was doing in the chat an hour ago, you need to figure out what you're going to do with Justin Herbert. $291 this year is ridiculous. To hold on to him next year is $350. I like Herbert. I don't think he's Mr. Wonderful. $291 is a bit pricey. $349 is ridiculous. So that means if you're keeping him, you're going to RFA him, but then you're letting a quarterback test free agency in a sense. But you can't. Like I don't know what you do, but man, you've got to figure out what your long-term plans are, because what you do with Herbert should also signify what you do here. If you're planning on staying in for another year or two, then maybe you just restructure Herbert and put some dead cap in these next couple of years and hang on to Andrews. If you don't think so, then maybe you try to just re-sign and trade Moore and Lamb and Pickens, right, to some of these teams that are wide receiver need. I don't know, but I think it all starts with Herbert because this is way too expensive. And also potential to free up cap room. And Allen has the cap room, but it all starts with the quarterback here, I think. He's got Penix and Stroud, so that's kind of good. You could let go of Herbert, but you've got to figure out what you're going to do there before you make any other decision, I think. Flynn.
Yeah. I like that with Allen. I think that, really, if he cuts Herbert with his cap number right now, he could be in the running for Saquon. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like you want to trade Herbert for Saquon. I know he needs running backs.
Yeah. And not only that, but 200. I wonder too. And this is a fun. I say it's a fun question. Fun question really means it's fun to theorize about. $433. Okay. If he cuts Herbert, I don't remember how much dead cap it's going to be or how much he gets back. But I'm assuming he's going to get roughly 150. Yeah. So he gets back 150. So he's sitting at, let's say he sits at 600 even. Is anybody going to bid Herbert up to $291?
Who knows?
I don't think so. Right. So, but he can stay in on that running. I think that's an interesting one. Is can you cut them and get them back? Because Alan and I were talking yesterday. He's like, what do you think I should do with this? What do you think I should do with that? And because he doesn't have enough roster moves for he wants to do 6 things. He can only do 5. Yeah, there's 6 main things he wants to do. He can only do 5. And so I said, you've got to figure out which one you can let go that you think you can win back. And I think that he's really trying to figure that out right now. And it's going to be, this is a tough situation to be in because there's no right answer or wrong answer. Moving on.
I agree. I hate to do this to you, but I have to sign off. So
I know you're tight on time. Shit.
Yeah, but I'll take care of the best of it.
Yeah.
We tried to cram this in, but we got most of it. So I'll be signing off.
See ya.
Blind will take care of the rest of this. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we are 2 minutes away from finishing this thing up too, which kind of stinks. Sorry, Code, but let's take a look. So Flynn, we don't like that guy anyway. So Flynn, to talk about what I think Flynn should do here. I think it's kind of simple. We've got to get rid of some of this dead weight that you've got on the team. I think there's a lot of players who are really expensive that I don't want to say don't need to be here, right? But you're paying a lot of these guys some money that you probably don't need to be paying them anymore. Really, the first that came to mind were Kendre Miller and Michael Mayer. Let's just be done. Let's, see you later. This is a lot of money for a backup running back. This is a lot of money for Jerry Jeudy. This is a lot of money for Aaron Rodgers. Part of me thinks that you just kind of cut some of the dead weight in this discount period. It's never going to be cheaper than today to cut some of these guys. The other thing is you've got to stop patching quarterback. We've got Bryce Young. We've got Daniel Jones, who's another one probably needs to get cut for that cost. Will Levis is maybe even another one if the Titans draft a quarterback. That's easier said than done to say stop patching quarterback, but I wonder if Flynn can go out here with some of the picks that he has and the way he's on the up and up and see if he can get somebody like a Herbert, like Lamar. I don't know. I just feel like Flynn's such a good position. Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, Brian Thomas. Like, he's got these great young wide receivers on really good deals. He's got Montgomery. There's another solid running back he has, if I'm not mistaken. I am mistaken. He can go ahead and maybe go after Saquon or Chubb or somebody in free agency. He's got Godwin if he brings him back. Swift is the other running back I was thinking. Bring Swift back. I just think if you can figure out this other quarterback spot, man, like Flynn's a legitimate contender. By legitimate contender, I mean semifinals at least. Going to Nate and Escobar's Hippos. I think this is kind of slightly obvious as well. Extend Jordan Love, a really good quarterback contract here. I think that you can go ahead and extend him out. You know that he's not going to go anywhere for a long time, especially since Nate is a Packers fan. So I would extend Love, get that out of the way. None of these guys are really worth hanging on to unless they're a quick, easy sign-in trade. And I would use 104, that's the fourth pick of the draft. Use 104 to get your QB if you can. If he's a fan of either one, see what you can send a project to move up a spot and get your QB2, because there's not much going on this roster that's really amazing. And so I really think that the quarterback's room could be a good foundation. If you can hit on something or get a cheap quarterback with something, you pair that with Love, I really think you could be set up for sustained success. And our last move and roster to talk about is Unicorn, who's been an absolute bully to me in DMs, by the way. I think in some capacity, you've got to keep Lamar Jackson. I think it's got to be a restricted free agent tag. Signing him for this year at 202 is a lot, unless he has plans to fully flip and tank. That maybe you sign him for 2 years and push him dead cap into 26 or something. But I think his team's built to still continue to go with Metcalf, with Olave, with Tyreek, with Shaheed. I think that Unicorn can stick around, so I feel like you've got to find a way to retain Lamar or get really good value for him. I would really only pick one tight end and stick with him because he has Kincaid on the roster, he has Kittle on the roster. So can you get something for one of those two? How much do you believe in Kincaid after this down year he had last year? I'd pick one of those two and try to stick with it, maybe try to sell the other one and figure out your flex spots, just because you've got some good receivers here. Tyrone Tracy, I think he's a believer in, but you've got to figure out Kamara and Jacobs. But I don't imagine both these guys coming back with how much they cost. But he's got the cap room. I just think that the flex spots could be weak depending upon what Unicorn decides to do with his moves here. And so that would be the last thing that I'd say. That kind of does it. Sorry, Code, that you had to leave us. I'm sure you'll watch this later. But yeah, thank you, boys, for tuning in. Went longer than expected at 40 minutes. Wanted to keep it at 30, and here we are at 40. It's typical blind spiral recording time with Code as well too. But make sure, if you haven't looked, 25 off-season tab. Let's just make it bigger. Really got our shit together today. There we go, and let's make it smaller now. If you guys have not done this yet, looking at you, Rick, with the cookies and all that. Make sure you guys play in the 2020-25 off-season tab. The off-season overview is really important. I try to make this really clean in comparison to what we did before. This way you can see the important dates coming up. Cut discount period, just a couple days left in this where the cap penalty is cheaper than normal. Use your calculator to help you figure out and see if it's worth it to roll the dice or not. If you've got a holdout, there's only 3 of them left, unless Jawan. No, I think we cut Jawan Jennings. I don't remember, but there's 2 or 3 holdouts left. You've got to make a decision by really March 8th, March 9th at 12:01. So March 8th is when the decision's due. We'll give out the draft picks and all that until then. And then we will start the restricted free agent process on March 13th, which is when NFL free agency starts to give some time. So cut discount period ending very soon. So make sure that you're on top of it. Back in the offseason tab, all your roster moves are in here, all the different types, all the different calculators for it, as well as your cut calculator to kind of go ahead and see should you or should you not cut some of these guys. And I can't remember who said it, but someone said the other day, I really like to look at the numbers to see who's thinking about cutting who, and it is the truest thing in the world, but plenty of decisions to be made in our offseason. Combine starts soon, draft starts soon. Really excited to get into full swing of the offseason, and this is maybe the first step, but just a couple days left, and good luck making your decisions, and we'll talk to you soon.